So, Michael, good evening,
I've
Mr.
seen you
Chairman.
around before. It's pretty good.
We have seen each other before. It is nice to see you again, and to the brave few, thank you. My name is Gail Harvey. I am a volunteer lobbyist for the National Chapter of Rhode Island, the National Chapter of National Organization of Women. I'm sorry, I'm really tired. I was in this room for like 8 hours on Tuesday, so I'm having a little PSTD. So I'm going to start again. The National Organization of Women, National Chapter, but it's the Rhode Island. And I am a volunteer. I have points to discuss here, but I'd like to say one thing. In my life, I worked, every single job I worked, it was either minimum wage or I was underpaid. So I'm a poster child for not being paid correctly. It's a terrible thing that women go through, and my husband and I had a discussion. I lived many years in New York City. I'm a New Yorker. I've lived here for 18. I'm very happy to be in this state. I got my college education in this state, and I owe a lot to this state, and I think this is why I do this. But I said to my husband, you know, we were in Brooklyn. I said, if I die, you can't afford to replace me. And he's like, what? And I said, no, if I die, you can't afford to replace me because my life insurance is only $40,000. And that's going to last you 2 years. So I had several jobs and was always underpaid. So when we're talking about minimum wage, I do get passionate about that because there is a big difference between making $11 and some odd cents an hour and $15 an hour. It is a difference of whether I can pay my rent. And by the way, rents in Rhode Island are crazy. My husband and I are retired, and our rent goes up every year. But my Social Security doesn't. My Social Security actually goes down $10 for the past 2 years. Amazing. I'm like, how does that happen? So I understand the rent squeeze. The rents are going up. We don't have affordable housing. So how is a single mom with 2 kids going to live on $11 an hour? It's not. It's going to afford working parents greater economic security for their families. As my husband and I worked to support our children in New York City, so parents in this state work. It's dinks, double income. They have to do it. They can't live. 1 in 5 working women in Rhode Island already face persistent wage gap in the workforce. As a human resource professional, I saw how life is behind the curtain. I know how compensation systems work. I know how to get around people, paying people the right wage. That's what was my job. I was supposed to do that. I didn't, but that's what I was supposed to do. So when businesses are talking, I think about where I worked. And where I worked, there were editorial people and there were advertising people. The advertising people hated the editorial people. The editorial people hated the advertising people. Editorial wanted to do this, that, and that. Advertising said, I can't go out and sell a story. How am I going to sell ads to Ford, to Chrysler, to Kraft when you're doing thus and such? And then advertising would say, well, if you would only do stories about this, that, and that, I could sell this. And editorial says, no, that's going to do something to my credibility. This is a symbiotic relationship. Editorial in magazines cannot exist without advertising. And advertising cannot exist unless they have something to sell, which is what they get from editorial people. So we have the same thing. I hear it all evening time. It is a symbiotic relationship. If you do not have the workers, and if you do not pay the workers a good wage, you do not have a business because you have nobody there to work at your business. As a professional, we tried to pay the best we could to keep assistants. Because if the assistants left and went to Wall Street, who paid a lot more than we did, then we had to retrain somebody, we had to spend more money, and it was not cost effective. This is the same dynamic here. If I run a restaurant, and no, I don't want to go to restaurants because that gets into tips and things, but let's say I'm in a hotel, and my chambermaids are the bulk of my business. If you don't have good people cleaning your rooms, you don't have happy customers. They can go to another hotel. If you're not paying those women to clean those rooms in a way that they can support their families, they're gonna go find another job. So you're gonna have to train somebody else again. So it's that vicious cycle. You must have that symbiotic relationship. If you value your employees and you pay them a living wage, they will stay with you. And they will continue to do a good job, and your business will thrive. It's simple. Maybe it's painful. I don't quite understand why, because if you don't understand helping your people and paying them a living wage at $15, believe me, nobody's going to get rich on $15, but if you do that, then you will have people stay with you and your business will prosper. We serve tourists in this state. You need those hotel workers. You need those restaurant workers. You need those people in stores. So it is a win-win situation. And finally, from my end, at my age now, I'm getting Social Security. What goes in today goes into Social Security. So what happens to these people who stay in Rhode Island and then they, at the end when they retire, and all those Social Security wages they work for are still not enough for them to live on? You've got another problem. So it's not just right here and now, it really is down the road. A lot of us don't have to think about it, but unfortunately I'm in a one lane now. I used to be in a dual lane highway, but now I'm in a country lane. So I think of those things. Rhode Island now thinks of those things. Lastly, I remember when President Bush gave us $300. I don't know how many people in this room remember that. We could not wait to get that $300. Now, both of us are working, we're living in New York City. That $300 went out of my house faster than the people who robbed me several years earlier. We spent it didn't last a week. Whew, it was gone. So when and I don't mean to be funny about it, but we needed that money. And so when you give people money that they need to live on, that money goes to laundromats, that money goes to grocery stores, that money goes to clothing. It goes right back into the economy. So it's not as if, oh my God, I'm going to go out of business because I have to pay somebody $15. Well, the other person can come in and they got that extra $15 they're going to spend it in your store. So it's, again, symbiotic. Go for it. I really hope you pass this bill. Think about it. We all need each other. Thank you very much.